Okay, so I think we want to begin, I guess. So this is I guess we are live now, but this is by theory, a pre-recording for Young CosTubers Panel for CoSy. So this will be going live on YouTube on the 20th. So yeah, I'm Julij. I use they them pronouns. My YouTube channel is just Julij, and I guess I'm from Poland. I think that matters, I guess. And let's go on. So Ora, introduce yourself.
I'm Ora. I'm going to be the moderator. I also use they them pronouns. My YouTube channel is Ora Lin. I'm from the East Coast of the US, and so far I've done mostly 19th and early 20th century clothing, but I have plans to branch out even more and into other cultures of clothing. So that's me. We can do Gracie and then Holly.
Sounds good.
My name's Gracie. I use she, her pronouns. I'm originally from the West Coast, but I live on the East Coast of the US. I usually make 18th century clothes as well as modern or like 1940s-ish clothes, but I would like to expand into more medieval and 16th century garments. Mm-hmm. And my channel is Gracie Patten, Patten.
Awesome. Well, hi everyone. I'm Holly. My pronouns are her. I am from Canada, but I move around a lot within the country for school, depending on what school I'm doing. My channel is a bit all over the place. I do some cooking stuff, sewing stuff, general history things. And yeah, just before we get into the panel, I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm coming to you all today from the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples. This land consists of ceded land under Treaty 13, the Williams Treaties, as well as unceded land that continues to be contested and is now home to many diverse communities. As a lot of you are probably aware, a big conversation in costuming right now is context, and that's why it was important to me to address, albeit very briefly, the history of the land that I'm living on and making videos on. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoy the panel.
Okay, I missed, I guess, my kind of portion of what I do. I do mainly 1910s, I guess, projects, but I also do like branch out into the other stuff. Holly, you use she, her pronouns, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I just got a message from a friend that it's cut off, for her at least. Also, we are on Twitch now, so I don't have the description here. I will possibly, if we will do like a break, then I will possibly put links to everybody's channel in the chat. And if you are watching this on YouTube, then everything will be in the description. So that's a thing. Okay, so I guess let's move on to the questions.
Cool.
And once again, not great at organizing, so I have to pull my dog. But yeah.
So our first question is, how did you get into costuming? So, Julij, do you want to go first, and then Holly, Gracie, and then I'll go?
I can. Okay, so I guess I got into costuming by kind of like watching other YouTubers, I guess, because I guess that's what happens when YouTube recommends you this kind of stuff. I just fall into it. I think it was, well, basically by the kind of big costumers that probably most people know. But I wanted to sew before, but I didn't have time. So then I started watching a lot of CosTube and basically learned what I had to learn without actually sewing. So then I just decided, I actually have I didn't do this before, but I have already the skills and the knowledge I need. So why not? So that was basically what got me into it. Also, I guess I had like a brief fascination with like 50s fashion, which I think a lot of people go through the 50s fashion, because I have since long moved on from the 50s, but it started with that, I guess. So maybe I guess we could like move on by the screen, so maybe downwards to Gracie.
Okay. I first started, well, I learned how to sew when I was like 2 or 3 because my mom taught me, 'cause my grandma sews and I wanted to learn. But I got interested in like costuming when I was pretty young, like 5 or 6 or 7, because my mom read the Little House on the Prairie books to me, which in hindsight are like super colonialist, but I wanted to like wear a bonnet and a prairie dress. And so I like found the materials at Goodwill, and it kind of went from there. I realized as I was going into high school that I could sew the things I wanted to wear, and so I started doing that.
Holly?
Yeah, I'll go. So I've been into costuming for basically, I want to say my whole life. My mom is a professional seamstress for film and television. Wow, can't speak. So she would always make me, you know, Halloween costumes and all that kind of stuff. But for me personally, I started getting into cosplay when I was about 13. And so anime, video game, comic book cosplays is kind of where that was for me, like, you know, hot glue and EVA foam and Warbler, you know, thrift flipping stuff. And then after I started, you know, university and working at a museum in my summertime, I started to transition more towards historical costuming. And that's kind of when pandemic happened. I'd been doing historical costuming and I'm like, oh, YouTube, I guess. Be a fun way to kind of merge all of my interests together. So yeah, it's been a slow burn, but I'm not at all surprised that this is where I've ended up.
For me, it's been basically a combination of what Julij said and what Gracie said. I read Little House on the Prairie when I was like maybe 7 or 8 as part of a little book club, and made some bonnets. I think I still have a few of them. So I never did cosplay really, but I started sewing costumes, like Halloween costumes for myself and my cousins when I was pretty young. And then I didn't really do any historical costuming for a while, but I did a lot of my sewing knowledge came from YouTube. So like that slowly brought me into the historical costuming niche. And that's where it kind of really started. So yeah, that's it for me. The next question is how/when did you learn to sew? And a few of us already started to touch on that.
So I didn't speak on that, I guess.
Yeah, you want to go?
Okay. I only started to, well, I think I started to learn how to sew pretty late. So actually like sewing was at the beginning of the pandemic. I sewed an 80s dress. Before that, I only sewed like pajama shorts and 1950s skirt, but like that was with a lot of help from my mom because she knows how to sew. So I can't really say that I sewed them. Like it was a joint thing. So like sewing myself, I started at the beginning of the pandemic. So like not too long ago, I guess. Just I sew just a little above a year now, so pretty quick, I guess. Anyways, Gracie?
I touched on this a little bit, but I learned like the basics of hand sewing when I was like a toddler. And then as I got a little older, I started taking classes and that sort of thing. Like I took a class where I learned like how to attach a zipper, how to do a French seam, just basics. And then from there, I just kept on making things. And as I made things, I learned more.
Holly?
Yeah, before I started sewing, I was knitting. And that was kind of on and off. And then I went to university and I was like, ooh, I want to start a knitting club. There's like a local knitting store. So knitting has kind of been my big project skill that I can do fully by myself. Sewing, I started doing that in high school, but again, like I mentioned, my mom, she's just like Julij, also knows how to sew very well. So it's often, I have this crazy idea and I'm like, all right, mom, how do I do this? And she'll, give me pointers and I'll kind of just roll with it. But I'm starting to do more and more complex projects on my own. I think my biggest one, I did a video on it, was a men's 18th century shirt that I wore for work. And I also wear with like jeans because it's just, those kind of shirts look good on everybody. That's just a universal fact. Yeah, so I'm kind of getting better at sewing, and doing YouTube videos has kind of helped with that. It's definitely pushed me very far.
I started hand sewing. So my parents don't really sew. My mom definitely doesn't sew, and my dad did a little bit. Like, he took home ec classes and enjoyed them and like actually put effort into sewing, but he doesn't really sew that much. So they kind of introduced me to hand sewing when I was like 7 or 8, but I didn't learn how to like do it well. So I basically was making things out of these like gigantic whip stitches. Like, that was the only thing, that I knew how to do for like 2 years. So that stuff mostly has fallen apart at this point. I think they bought me a sewing machine when I was 9, and it was like a kind of trashy, like cheap Singer machine. But I used it for like 5 years, and yeah, I guess I've been sewing ever since. Our next question is, how do you cope with costuming and / school? And given that I don't, because I'm a dropout, I think the rest of you can answer this one. So let's go Holly, Gracie, and then Julij.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
sure.
I was in university full time, just graduated, but I'm going back to school in September. And I gotta say, I tried to do one video a month. And obviously with sewing or knitting or, even research-based videos, it takes a lot of time. You can't just, produce things and have a bulk, to upload. So it is challenging, but I would say I try to do videos on stuff that I already plan on working on, not really the other way around. I'm gonna make a video about something, I'm already doing this, let's make a video about it. And oftentimes those projects are done in whatever free time I have. So during school, I don't really have a consistent upload schedule, which that's life, but that's kind of the only way that I can manage doing school and succeeding in that, and then making projects and trying to keep up some sort of internet presence when it comes to those sorts of things.
I can go next. I am kind of in the same boat as Holly. Especially, so I'm starting my final year of university, and in high school, I was able to sew pretty consistently, but in university, I just have so much more work. So I sew when I can and make videos when I can when I'm in school. But the combination of like schoolwork and work, sewing often goes to the wayside, and that's okay. Yeah, I don't think it just ends up going to the wayside, and that's how it is.
Okay, so I'm in theory still in high school, but like the different education system, I guess, in Poland, and I have like a lot of schoolwork, but I have this thing that I don't have like free time, as in I can't just sit and do nothing. So basically my free time has now by theory became like doing work for YouTube, I guess. Mm-hmm. So that's when I sew, edit, and stuff like this. I can't say that my work balance is great, definitely not, but it kind of works, I guess.
Our next question is, how do you stay motivated to work on projects? I guess I'll go first, and then Gracie, Holly, and Julij.
Sounds good.
So for me, I think YouTube helps a lot with staying motivated. sometimes there's an aspect of burnout, but I think overall, usually having a project before a video or choosing to make a video about a project gives me motivation to actually finish it. Because it's really hard for me. I kind of tend to have things out for whatever project I'm working on. So it's hard to do multiple projects at once and film them. So I really have to kind of finish one before I start another. That's not to say I don't have a few unfinished projects lying around, but they kind of have to be really pushed to the side to be working on something. So for me, I think I've started sewing a lot more since doing YouTube, because I decided to try to make the commitment to put out videos somewhat regularly, which I've only somewhat succeeded at. Gracie?
Okay. I stay motivated on projects by having multiple things. So right now I'm working on a pair of 18th century stays, just a super involved project. And I'm also working on a modern dress, which is a less involved project. So I can kind of switch between the two depending on what I want to be working on. And for me, finishing a project is just the best. So if I know that a project is if the end is within sight, I will keep working on it because I want that feeling of having finished this project. And I also want to be able to wear whatever I've made because I like new clothes. Who doesn't? And I guess as kind of a corollary to this, I feel like Instagram makes me less motivated, because whenever I go on Instagram, I just feel exhausted because Instagram is a bad app. So I feel like the less I'm on Instagram, the more I'm sewing, but then I post about my sewing on Instagram, and it's not a good cycle. Holly is next.
Yeah, I think I agree. Having deadlines, whether that be for, a meetup or a video, it helps me. But I think for me, I'm still learning. I would absolutely consider myself, an advanced beginner, intermediate, I don't know. But for me, if I'm working on something, I'm usually really passionate about it, but I have to put it away. I have to stop myself and let myself put it away before I get too frustrated to work on it and just decide, no, I'm done with this. So my motivation kind of comes from a lot of, push, pull, put it away, pick it back up again, move to another cross-stitch project, or continue working on a knitting project and then come back to it later. I think it's a lot about temperance, everything in moderation for me. But absolutely, I'd agree with Ora that having videos to make and trying to put them out regularly, it helps to know that there's an end of a timeline somewhere.
Okay, so I'm kind of the opposite, I guess, because I think I have never taken up multiple projects at once because I would not finish them. I guess my motivation, when I started my YouTube channel, it was kind of so I have motivation to do stuff, because then I actually have a platform, and I guess by theory someone to show it off to. Because if I didn't have the platform, then I probably would just push it further in time, especially more I'm working on a 1910s ensemble. So this is not something I would wear every day, at least not most of it. So there is not really the motivation to wear it. So basically the only motivation for that kind of projects is YouTube, because, well, I want to make a video, so I have to do this. And it also kind of gives me a kind of a deadline, I guess, with everyday stuff, where then there is an additional motivation to actually make that and wear it. But yeah, also Gracie, I think, touched on this a little bit, but social media and motivation is a very tricky thing, because on the one hand you have if you're on YouTube, you have the motivation to make videos, but Instagram and basically most apps that you just scroll through, they kind of mess with your mind a little bit when it comes to motivation. Because on one hand, some people get inspired and do stuff. On the other hand, you look at like countless photos of like elaborate projects of other people, and you're like, God, what is going on? So that's a thing, I guess. But yeah, I guess YouTube is kind of like the biggest motivation for me.
What is our next question? English as a second language.
I guess this is
something you want to talk about, Julij.
Mine. So I guess this is not necessarily as closely Young CosTubers related, but I'm the only person here that speaks English as a second language. You can probably tell, but yeah. So I guess English as a second language is kind of tricky, as in you have a complete different vocabulary. For example, in Polish, because Polish is my first language, there's the problem that, especially I think this is the most noticeable in subtitles, because we don't have a lot of words you have in English, especially when it comes to fashion history. So managing like translation is a bit tricky. And again, I guess this is making content online is kind of good for people that use English as a second language, because it's basically you have to practice it, so your English will get better. Also, I think a lot of people realize that speaking English is better when it comes to like getting followers, because speaking English gives you a much bigger platform than speaking in a language like Polish. Like there is a reason there are very few costuming YouTubers, because they don't necessarily they are not necessarily in the costume that speak Polish, and they're not very well known. I know there are some, but there are not many of them. So I guess that's kind of on that.
Our next question is imposter syndrome. What am I reading?
Speak about that?
Talking about something that you feel you don't know about. Yes. Okay. I've definitely struggled with this a little bit. What order should we go in? Let's go Gracie, Holly, Julij, and then me.
Sure.
I don't really get imposter syndrome with sewing, just because, I don't know, I'm very lucky that I'm like a confident person, and I feel like I know enough about sewing that I'm happy talking about it. But I guess one thing that is kind of related to this is I do a lot of like political work. Like my job is like, I work in like the voting rights space, making sure that people have access to the ballot, and trying to make our democracy work functionally. And knowing, I always feel a little bit awkward knowing that I do this kind of like frivolous hobby on the side where I'm sewing pretty clothes. It feels kind of like, I'm always concerned that what if somebody finds my account and thinks, oh, she's not serious about democracy reform and protecting the right to vote, she's making pretty clothes. So I don't know if that counts as imposter syndrome, but that's definitely something that I think about and try to be cognizant of with the videos that I choose to make. I can't remember who was next, sorry.
Yeah, as someone, so I've done, my undergrad was in history, and my main area of interest is women's history. I try to see everything through that lens, and that also translates to the videos that I make. And I think one thing that it's adjacent to imposter syndrome is, well, this is important to me, but if I can't explain why it's important and other people should care, then they're not, and it's not going to be important to anyone else. And I'm just out here making these things and talking about women's history and contributions to, you know, the historical timeline in these videos, but, you know, that's like a woman's thing, of course, right? And I think that that for me is, I don't need to justify the value of it to anyone else, because if they see value in it or they're interested in it, then that's enough. But that, you know, I say that, but, you know, I'm working on stuff and I'm like, this is just you know, no one else is going to care. No one else is going to think it's important. And then, you know, there's that. But then in terms of like imposter syndrome, yeah, there are definitely moments where I feel like I don't have control. And I think that control, not feeling in control, is like, well, who is in control, and why should I even try to be if someone else can just take the reins and deal with it myself, or them, if they can deal with it. I don't really know if that makes a lot of sense, but yeah, I definitely get it. I get it a lot. I get it with my academic field. I get it with sewing. And it sucks because sometimes it's really easy to recognize and you're like, that's imposter syndrome. Stop thinking like that. But other times it is so strong that you don't even realize that you're talking yourself down. And that's when it gets really difficult. And that kind of is linked to motivation. That's linked to managing work and school and sewing. And it's so annoying how it just kind of slips through the cracks in your brain. So yeah, I think it's a real thing. And just to bring it back to social media, that also kind of exacerbates, you know, everyone else on the internet can do it better than me. Why should I even try? So yeah, not to get dark or anything, but it's something that people experience, you know, and there's no point in pretending like it's not something that people deal with. So
I guess it's my turn. So for me, I guess imposter syndrome mainly shows up in things like this is mainly the reason why I don't really do like speaking videos on my channel, because with sewing, I know like I can sew that, so I show it, but when it comes to like more maybe informational videos, I'm always afraid that I don't know enough about the topic to speak about it. It also like comes from the fact that I mainly learn through like listening. So a lot of things that I have the knowledge of, I learned by somebody's told me something or something like that. And like I can check if that is correct, but there is always like the thing in my mind that like I don't have the direct source. So this is a risk, even though I know that it's true because I checked it. So I guess that's kind of a thing. Like I did a very short video on like an introduction to sewing manuals. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's so short is because I have recorded a like 20 minutes long talking video, but then decided that that is very opinion based of me, and it's not informative enough. So I basically did that, made a script and did like a 4 to 5 minute video because of like the fear that this is not correct. So I guess that is a thing. But like I think that's a thing with like historical things, because you will never be 100% sure of something, no matter how much research you will do on it. So honestly, like I have a lot of respect for people that can do like 20 minutes sitting videos just talking about anything, to be honest. So yeah.
For me, a lot of the same things that Julij just said. I feel like a lot of times I only do the minimum amount of research to feel like I can do something justice. So I feel like I have to make an effort to make sure that I'm trying not to come across as like an expert on a subject in a video, because I know that I'm not, and I don't want people to like take my word as if I am an expert, because I'm like, I just did enough research to feel like I know enough about this thing, but I definitely like there's a lot more to be learned about most things. But yeah, I think I've picked up a lot of knowledge from other YouTubers and from my own research and stuff about just like general kind of European fashion history. But I feel like to do a video like breaking down a certain thing or timeline or like development of a silhouette or something, even though I feel like I know an overview, I would want to do a lot more research to like make a video like that. So I feel like people sort of almost expect me to have that knowledge and I don't. And sometimes that feels a little bit like am I putting out something that isn't true? But I try really hard to make sure that that's not the way that my content comes across, but I don't know that I actually succeed 100% of the time. Because especially since I do like enjoy doing a lot of original practice and hand sewing and stuff. And I know that a lot of people who do that are really into like historical accuracy. So it's hard to like separate I just like hand sewing a lot from I'm trying to precisely recreate something from the past. Yeah, that's my take. Our next question is, how do we afford sewing / and YouTube? Can you go the same order? Gracie, Holly, Julij, and then me?
Sounds good.
Sure.
So let's see. I have like, in terms of YouTube, my mom used to be like into photography, so I have 2 of her old cameras, so I didn't have to buy a camera or anything like that, which was super helpful. And then in terms of fabric, I have been like, I like spend most of my money on fabric. It's bad. And I've been doing this for a while. So I have like a lot of fabric in my house, like too much fabric. And so if I like don't want to buy something or can't afford it at the time, I'll like just see, oh, I have something that might work. And I'll just use what I have. But yeah, so I use like the money that I earn from like babysitting and work and all that kind of stuff. And then my mom will sometimes help out with fabric for clothes that I'm wearing for like school and that sort of thing, because my mom is very lovely. If she's watching, hi mom, you're great. I think Holly is next.
Yeah, both my parents are in the film industry, so camera equipment I was able to inherit from my dad, who's a cinematographer, and a lot of times I get fabric from my mom, who's able to get that from work after a shoot. So that, like, I recognize that absolutely does come from a place of privilege, so not really any good budgeting tips there, but for when I do invest in fabric, I try to get things as local as possible. Getting stuff from the States and shipping it to Canada is really expensive. Our dollar is not equal, so the exchange rate is really high, and it's more fiscally responsible to try to get things locally, but there aren't nearly as many options in Canada. So when it comes to a big project, I try to plan it all out in advance and then, save up for it and then make an investment. But usually I try to do things where I can get a lot of wear out of it. So some of my other videos for CoSy feature the exact same dress, just with different accessories, and it changes up the look. And accessories is a lot more budget friendly than trying to do a whole new garment. So I try to think about long-term, what does my wardrobe for this time period look like, and things that I make for it, how can I make it all work together so I don't need to, put down a huge lump sum every time I want to do a new thing. So that's kind of what I try to do for that. Yarn, on the other hand, because I do a lot of knitting and historical knitting, that's just like, take my money, give me the good yarn. Yeah, I did a bicycle sweater video as my first YouTube video for this channel. I spent $120 on yarn for that project. Yeah.
What is a bicycle sweater?
It's the 1890s bicycle sweater with the big, yeah, it's the one that was in the Met Museum, and everyone was like, oh my God, this sweater, like, whoa.
Oh yeah.
But I was like, I got some birthday money, and I was like, I'm gonna wear this sweater all the time because it's cute and it'll be soft and it'll be historic. So but I think that's probably the most I've spent on a single garment before.
Okay, so the broke teenager here. I'm lucky enough that my parents still help me somewhat when it comes to paying for materials, but I do still pay for most of it, I guess. I don't have a job and I am not monetized anywhere. So you may ask yourself, where do I have the money from? Magic. Just magic. No, actually, I get money from like good grades and stuff like this, I guess. Just like, I guess, birthdays and any like family events. So I have a lot of money saved up throughout the years. So like I have money to buy, like I had money to buy a camera recently because of this. But yeah, I also stick very locally when it comes to buying fabrics. I guess I have kind of ditched the whole historically accurate thing because that is expensive. And like, I don't want to waste my money on like silk threads or something like this that I would most likely have to buy from abroad, because a lot of things that, for example, for some reason, you can't really buy a lot of things in Poland, I guess, probably because this is not a very like popular thing here. So when I was making my corset, I had to go through the whole internet to find any kind of bone in Poland. And Basque, I think the Basque was the hardest to find. But eventually I found something in Poland, because getting something from abroad, even from like Germany, would have been much more expensive. And I also, as I already said, I like to do my projects one at a time. So most of the time I buy fabric one at a time with the projects. My mom really hates how pricey the lace is, even though it's a standard price for lace. So I buy that most of the time from my own money, because I don't want to hear her complaining all the time when it comes to that. Because I guess what happens most of the time when I buy materials is I say, I need this much. She said, no, this is too much. You need this much. So it's cheaper. We calculated. I need somewhere between those two. I will more because I can fuck up something, and I would rather have more fabric.
Hello.
Please leave my room.
Jakby coś, to bardzo ładnie.
She's learning English right now, so she's excited that she can say hello.
Oh,
Hello.
Anyways, yeah, buying fabric. So I would probably buy just like the cheap fabric that is somewhere, either like from the internet or from like a local fabric shop. And I had money because I have bought the camera recently. The mic here I got from my friends for my birthday, but like I had to buy a lot of equipment, but that's the money that I have saved up before. And I guess my take on it is kind of, this is my hobby. So when I was younger, I spent a lot of money on like markers for art. So why wouldn't I spend a lot of money for a camera if that's my hobby? That's kind of my take on it. And also we have platforms like Ko-Fi or Patreon. So that's also a thing. Like I don't get much money from there, but a little bit to cover some shit up. So yeah.
For me, I feel very lucky that I have gotten a lot of support from my parents and even grandparents. My grandparents bought me the camera that I currently use, which I'm very grateful for. Most of the fabric at this point I buy myself because I really like nice fabric. I have way too much fabric. I need to stop buying fabric. But having fabric is better than having money, I guess. But yeah, I guess I sort of started, I don't know, I started sort of building a stash of fabric kind of a long time ago because I started sewing pretty young, and like my parents would occasionally buy me fabric. So I have a decent amount of like kind of awful fabrics from that time. So I guess I've just always been someone who mostly worked from a stash rather than for individual projects, which I'm not sure is the best way to go, but that's kind of the way that I've been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question.
Wait, I want to add something. I've realized that I forgot something. Julij mentioned channel monetization and how that plays into like paying for fabric. And my channel is monetized, so I can speak to that a little bit. But like, unless you're somebody like Bernadette Banner, you earn like no money from YouTube. So having like a monetized channel does not pay for fabric. I like the way YouTube works is you have to earn a certain amount to get paid. And I think I've earned that amount, but I still haven't gotten paid because I haven't given YouTube my tax information. So like I have not actually received any money from YouTube. I don't know, Ora, you're also monetized. So I don't know how that's worked for you. But YouTube doesn't give any money.
I think the threshold is $100, and it took me like 5 or 6 months of being monetized to get $100. So it's really not a solid income at least at the channel sizes that we have. I did wanted to mention actually that I do sort of think of a lot of the things that I spend money on for my channel as an investment, not just for the channel, but like I'm really interested in cinematography and film just kind of as a whole. So I thought like getting a nice camera would be something that I would probably enjoy using even if I don't keep doing this channel forever. So
yes, I have like a similar take on it because like aside from, like when it comes to like technical stuff like cameras, mics and stuff like this, we by theory buy it for YouTube and like other like social media platforms that we use, but having a camera and like a good working camera in the future can be very useful, even though it's not why you bought it. So a lot of things that we buy, I guess, can be reused in a different way and for different hobbies. Mm-hmm. So it's not like this is 100% for YouTube. It's like, oh, it would be useful for YouTube, but it would be useful for so many other things that I might want to do. So yeah, like for example, if you buy a computer, it's not so you can, I don't know, edit videos. So you have a computer and then you can edit videos on it.
Yeah, could I add something to that too? I think that, like, for me personally, one of my life philosophies is that I never do anything for one reason only. Everything I do, there has to be more than one reason as to why I do it. So the costumes that I make, they have a purpose outside of the internet. You know, and I want to make sure that the research I'm doing, the videos that I'm producing, the items that I'm creating, I can use them because, you know, I live in my parents' house and I will eventually move out at some point. I move out for school, but, you know, I can't bring everything that I've made. So I can't just keep, you know, making stuff. I hope to continue doing museum work after I finish my studies, and what perfect place to wear historical costumes than museums. I don't know, it seems like a logical connection. So I agree. It's not just, I think Gracie, you mentioned the word frivolous at one point. It's not just, I'm going to dispense a large amount of money on yarn to make this sweater for a less than a minute long video. I'm going to dispense money on this sweater because the sweater is really cute. I'm just going to make a video about it, but then I'm going to wear it when it's cold because it gets very cold here. You know, everything has more of a purpose than just, I'm just going to make a YouTube video about it. I'm going to make a YouTube video about it. I'm going to wear it to work. I'm going to wear it in my normal life. I'm going to do research about it. I'm going to make it relevant to more areas than just social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Our next question is, how did you decide to start your channel? Gracie, Holly, Julij, and then I'll go.
Yeah, sure.
I had been wanting to have a YouTube channel for a while, but then at the start of the pandemic, I was in Seattle with my boyfriend, where we're both from, and he is a really good filmmaker. Like in high school, he made really amazing short films, and so so I was like, you want to help me make some videos for YouTube? And he agreed to help me. And I don't think without him, I wouldn't have started a YouTube channel, because like when I started, I had no idea about how to film or how to video edit. And so he edited like all of my first few videos. Like I had nothing to do with the editing, and I did like some of the filming and he helped filming. And I wanted to start a YouTube channel because I had a blog, but I hadn't updated the blog in a long time. And it seemed like YouTube was the place to go for historical sewing. And so I figured, why not? And Oliver was very helpful. Yeah, I think Holly is next.
Yeah, I started my YouTube channel years ago, and I had a lot of cosplay content on there and like vlogs and stuff, but it was awkward, you know, like 14-year-olds making content. So that was all privated. And then in university, I actually did 2 documentary projects. I was so sick of writing historical essays. I was like, no more. I need to do something that will activate my brain. So in 2 different history classes, I approached the professor and I said, can I do a video instead? Because I'd really like to do that. It's like, it's more work than writing an essay, but it was very rewarding. So I did 2 documentaries with 0 budget. We got some costumes, did some location stuff at a local museum. About the American Civil War, because I was doing some research about that to prep for a living history event I was doing. So there's 40 minutes worth of Civil War, 0 budget documentaries on my channel. And then the pandemic started, and I was, like I said, back to this bicycle sweater. I was like, you know what? A lot of people have made this, but there aren't really a ton of videos about bicycle sweaters, and this one in particular. So I was like, okay, I'll make a little film about it, upload it, and then that's kind of when I discovered this whole like is a community. It's a group. At the time there was a Facebook page and a Discord and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, okay, so this is more than just people making historical clothes and making videos about it. There's people behind the scenes and they're planning. And so then I kind of got involved with that, and then, you know, the CosTube died, and it kind of just became a thing where I was like, okay, this is cool, and it's a side thing for me, so I don't need to do consistent uploads. It's just whenever I have a project. So I had a channel for a while and was using it for practical reasons, like for school projects, and then I was like, okay, hold on, I can do something with this. And yeah, so it was a pandemic project basically.
Nice.
So yeah, for me, this is kind of like, I always wanted to like do something online. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a Minecraft YouTuber. This is my backstory.
Right.
So I guess there was always something like that kind of have interested me. I had interested in it. Like I remember I didn't have a channel as a kid, thankfully. That would be embarrassing if that still existed. But because of this interest, I had the opportunity to like try, for example, I did try editing as a like 12-year-old, because I also like had, for example, we did like short films for school, in elementary school. So like a small like understanding of editing was actually something surprisingly useful at an age of 12. So, but I think like that would come, YouTube and social media would come eventually for me either way, just because of my interest. I think why I waited so long is because I got kind of like traumatized by social media when I was a kid, because like I was bullied as a kid. And on top of that, I ran, when it still was Facebook days, I ran a lot of fan pages for, what was it? Adventure Time. I ran a lot of fan pages for that. So I kind of like, I was used to speaking with people online in that way. But then because of like exams at the end of like our elementary school, so when I was 12 and being bullied and social media, I got traumatized when it comes to social media, like a lot. I couldn't handle it. But then like my interest started again in social media when I was in middle school. And I guess at a certain point, I think it was the summer, like right before me going to high school. I was like, you know what? I will never know if this will work out for me or not unless I try it. And I already had like minimal knowledge of editing from me being interested in it previously, and also taking some classes at a certain point where it comes to editing. So I knew how to make a video, at least how to like make a very basic thing. And basically, well, I needed a reason to like keep me motivated to sew. And I already was like interested in historical sewing at the time. So I just thought, you know, CosTube is a community that existed. That was also right after, what was the event last year? CosTube?
COVID.
COVID. Yes, I completely forgot the name at this point, but that was right after that. So I guess there was like extra inspiration to get into that community. So that's basically why I started YouTube and why I started it in costuming.
I think I have wanted to start a sewing YouTube channel for a while. I filmed, even before I got into historical sewing, I started filming YouTube videos for like modern sewing and like thrift flips, which looking back, they were not good ones. But I like filmed, I think I filmed like 2 videos and like never ended up editing or uploading them. But my interest in photography and cinematography, I guess it's always been there a little bit, but I remember it kind of blew up way back in, gosh, I don't know when. I was in middle school. It was like when, I don't know if you guys know Peter McKinnon, he's a big film and photo YouTuber, and he was kind of blowing up at that time. So I started like watching that niche of YouTube a little bit. And I had always been interested in it, but I didn't really have time to like really start a YouTube channel until about a year ago. So yeah, that was that.
I feel like on a similar note, like YouTube, since starting on YouTube gives you a lot of skills that even if YouTube doesn't work out, like editing and running social media and things like this are skills very useful today. So even like if being a YouTuber doesn't work out for somebody, when you go to actually like any kind of job, having an experience with social media and running social media platforms and editing, recording, script writing, all of this stuff turns out to be very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's skip to curating / figuring out your niche and balancing what you think your audience would like to see versus what you want to make. Gracie, Holly, Julij, and then me.
So I had a blog and an Instagram for a long time before I had a historical sewing YouTube, and both of those, like, they weren't super popular, but they had like enough followers. And so I kind of knew what my niche was even before I started YouTube, that being 18th century sewing. And then when I started YouTube, the first like big video that I did was my 18th century stays video for COVID. And because I realized that there weren't really any videos about 18th century stays on YouTube at the time. And I think that has kind of just been my niche ever since, which has its pluses and minuses, because whenever I try to make a video like outside of that, it doesn't always do as well. But all my stays videos tend to do pretty well. So it wasn't, I think for me, it was, I already had a niche and I just kind of continued within it rather than trying to find one specifically.
Yeah, I don't think I have a niche, and I'm okay with that. Or rather, one day I will, based off of the collection of videos that I've made, but I've done a couple cooking videos, like historic cooking videos. I've done, you know, project vlogs. I've done larger kind of research and sewing videos. But I think that if you don't need to be hung up about finding a niche. I think that's something that I've come to accept, is that you can just make what you want. At this point, I've got 350 subscribers on my channel, which is very exciting. But as a result, there's not a lot of interaction with the stuff that I make. I don't really have a ton of views. So in terms of feedback and what my audience wants to see, I don't know, actually. I don't know at all. So up until this point, I've kind of just been making videos based off of what, you know, my interests are and what I'm currently working on. Last year, I put out a video on doing an 18th century housewife sewing kit at the same time that CocoVid came out. And so that video has the most views of everything on my channel, because it came out at a strategic time, which I didn't plan. It just was like, boom. So that one was kind of like, oh, cool. It's really interesting that people were looking for something like that. And so that one was probably one of my most successful ones. But yeah, up until this point, really, it's just been, I'm just gonna make a video about whatever I'm working on, because I haven't had at least a lot of back and forth dialogue with people who are like, oh, I like your style. I would love to see you do something like this in your next video. I haven't really had a lot of that. So we're just going to stay on that trajectory. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, see what happens, see what niche I fall into, or maybe not. Very nebulous a little bit over here.
So also, I just wanted to say, Gracie, I started watching you during CocoVid with your stays videos a year ago. So your videos worked, okay, I stayed.
Thank you.
But I guess for me, this is very similar to Holly, because I'm on 260 subscribers right now. So like on a small channel, you don't get much responses when it comes to what the people actually want to see. And I think figuring out your niche is kind of a lie, to be honest, because this is something that every person that gives you YouTube advice or something tells you, but that's not really, you don't really find a niche. Like finding a niche suggests that this is something you are specifically looking for, when I think this is something that just happens, because I think a lot of channels that give you advice on how to grow as a YouTuber tell you, for example, to look at your analytics or stuff like that. But if I, for example, looked at my analytics basically tell me, make corset videos. The thing is, corset videos are what every CosTuber has as most watched most of the time. So that it's not possible to be like, I am a corsetry YouTube. No, that doesn't work. You can't really, especially as a small channel, you can't really crack what the system is and what you actually should be doing. So I guess doing what you feel like you want to do is the best thing to do, because that also shows your viewers who you are. It's not a fabricated thing. And social media is very much based on luck. I mean, it's of course skill takes a bit part of it, but basically you need to get lucky to get big on social media, at least if you want to get big quick. So people are only gonna watch you if they like, I guess, who you are as a person on top of what you make, because it's hard to form a relationship of some kind with just for example, tutorial videos. So yeah, I also am kind of, when it comes to me and my niche, I'm kind of trying to break out from just sewing videos thing, because that's not what I want to do. I guess my future plans are basically joining sewing and be a chaotic Gen Z kid. So for example, last week on stream, I made a Minecraft skin inspired by a portrait of Marie Antoinette. So that will be a YouTube video later on. That's something that I don't think exists. That's just something that my Gen Z brain put together, because Minecraft and sewing, clearly a good match, I guess. So I guess I'm just trying to become as chaotic as I can. But that's also like, this is kind of like also trying to find yourself, I guess, because I think I'm on like my journey on finding my own self and my like what I am comfortable with myself. So I can only like show who I actually am and what I actually want to do when I figure out myself first and not my niche. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel that a lot. Yeah, the general like YouTube advice that I've heard a lot is like niche down, niche down, niche down. Like if your videos are all over the place, like people aren't going to want to subscribe because they're going to want like to see the same kind of content that they subscribed for. And then if you give them different content, they'll be confused. And I think that's happened to me a little bit, but also like I am both very new in my journey figuring out how I like to sew things and what kind of things I like to sew, even though I feel like I've been sewing for quite a while. It's only gotten like more serious in the last few years. And also like my journey to figure out my own, how I like to express myself and things like that. So I started with this like modern, very femme clothing on my channel. And like, that was fun, but it didn't really feel like me. So I know a lot of my subscribers are from there, which I think is why I like disproportionately don't get as many views as other people with the same subscriber base, because like half of them are here for modern dresses, and that's not really what I do anymore. But yeah, there was like a period when I was doing a lot of Victorian and Edwardian era women's clothing, and I did really enjoy that, but that's not something that I'm going to go back to the same degree. Like I might go back occasionally, but like I don't think I'm going to make another 10 videos in a row about the same 20 years of European fashion. Like I feel like that's kind of it for me for that, for the most part. So I'm like a little bit worried that as I branch out and do more like try medieval and try to find more Asian fashion history and other things, that people won't like it as much. But also I'm learning that the kind of videos I want to make have more context. Like I've done a lot of videos that are really just about the sewing and explaining the sewing, which is great, and I think there's definitely a place for that. But I'm learning that I like making videos that have other messages and other meanings. So as people subscribe for that, regardless of what I'm making, if that's kind of a big part of the video, then I hope they'll enjoy it and stay for it.
Yeah, I guess with like changing your niche also, if like, for example, somebody that already has a YouTube channel is watching this, if you want to like kind of get out of your niche, you will see that there will be much less views on the videos that are like, I guess, of your niche. That's because people are not used to those kind of videos. That doesn't mean that they won't get used to them, and probably more people will come that are looking for more of the other kind of the videos. So it's, I guess, kind of like a slow progress of slowly getting a bit slightly off topic, I guess.
I'd like to add one more thing, sorry, just quickly before we move on. I think the idea of like who you are as a person, social media, it creates a monolith, you know. I have too many interests. They all can't fit in my brain at the same time. And I think that if people go to YouTube and find like a YouTube personality, people change. People are very fluid, you know, and I think that it's a byproduct of social media that just, you know, everyone always has to be constant. They always have to remain the same. And that's just simply not true. And I think that it goes along with niche, right? Because my interests can change all the time, and they do. And I have so many of them that you know, how can I put that expectation on myself to only make videos with a certain theme, you know, and as I grow as a person and learn more things, as I get more educated, you know, my videos aren't going to be the same as they were when I started. And so it's difficult because obviously success of your channel is all numbers based, but to a certain degree, quotations. But people change, and that's just a fact. And I think it's so hard to put those expectations on yourself and on others to always be making the same kind of content, which, you know, and if that's holding you back, it's kind of points to larger kind of social media infrastructural issues. People should always like feel like they can explore and be comfortable doing that. So I don't know, I feel like that is a bigger conversation, but I'm just gonna put that out there.
Also, I know that we are kind of dragging out this question, but I guess like we can do that if we have something to say. But I don't think people really, because I've like heard a lot of people that spoke about finding a niche like a year ago during Coco video. That, for example, now I would say that their niche has changed, but they have not realized it, and the viewers have not realized it because it's still the same person. Like, I don't like to like point to specific people, but I guess like most people know Bernadette Banner because she's like kind of the biggest one on CoStube, but I don't think people have realized, because when I was starting, Bernadette made mostly like just straight up sewing videos, which throughout this year have shifted to like, I guess, honestly, a lot of like big CosTube channels have shifted to commentary. And that's kind of like changing a niche, but like not far enough for people to notice. So it's clearly possible to change a niche and still be successful. And I guess why people haven't realized that by theory the niche has changed is because it's still the same person that is running the channel and that is in those videos. It's just, they're just doing a little bit of a different thing.
Someone is hammering outside. I hope you can't hear that. It's annoying.
I don't think we can hear it, so it's fine.
But yeah, I've definitely noticed that trend happening. Not that I want to encourage this, but I think some of the kind of audience of CosTube at large has noticed that change and has opinions on it. So not that I don't like commentary or rant or like analysis videos. I think there's a lot of them can be really interesting, but I'm glad that there's like more room opening up for sewing videos in CosTube, because I feel like that's, yeah, there's a little bit of a space opening up there, and there's a lot of new people that want to fill that space, which is great. Can you hear that?
A little bit, but it's not like distracting, so we're fine.
Okay. Is there any questions that we want to go back to? Planning for YouTube, negative comments. I don't know if anyone has a lot of experience with negative comments. I know I have not gotten many.
Yeah, I also don't have really negative comments.
Yeah, me neither.
I guess the only problem I have with comments is that I personally got a lot of creepy men in my comments, which is like,
Ooh.
that results in me just deleting the comments and blocking them. But like, I guess there are not hate comments, but it's definitely like on the disrespectful side. So for me, like just people disrespecting my boundaries and treating me, obviously like I look rather femme, I guess. I'm a little quiet, okay. Oh, is that better when I have the microphone here? Hopefully we'll know a little bit. But I guess, okay, I got distracted. Okay, I guess that's kind of, especially at the beginning of my channel, I presented much more feminine, and I guess I am dressed up rather femme right now, but that like attracts a lot of like weird people, and there are a lot of weird people on the internet. So you have to like, if you want, for example, to have a channel, you have to keep in mind that it's not necessarily the hate comments. I guess it's necessary if you're a assigned female at birth person, there will be probably a lot of like objectification yeah, in regards to, so that's something you have to keep in mind when you make videos, because like my sewing videos don't really show me as much. It's basically just the final reveal when you see not always even the whole silhouette of me, but the clothes on me, and I guess a little bit of talking parts. But like that's a very minimal showing of myself, and that's still like there were still a lot of people commenting, for example, things like "you're beautiful" and stuff like this, which is also, if someone on the internet in the comments that you don't know, that was most likely a man, tells you you're beautiful, delete that. Don't take compliments on people like that, because they are not compliments. I don't know, Gracie, have you gotten any hate comments, I guess?
A few like weird comments and like plenty of rude comments. Like I had one that was the strangest thing. It was some person asking me to walk more feminine, which was like, their profile picture, I assumed it was a woman who was saying this based on their profile picture and their name, but it was just like the strangest thing. Like one of my legs is shorter than the other, so I walk the way I walk. And it was, I get weird comments like that. I've also gotten comments where it's like, the person clearly wanted something else from the video, and I don't respond like this because I don't want to be rude to the people who leave comments, but it's oftentimes like, well, if you feel so strongly about this video, maybe you should start a channel yourself and make your own videos. But yeah, the rude comments I usually just delete or ignore, because like they don't know me. I can't let myself care.
For some reason, it's really like I guess that happens to a lot of people, the comments that like basically tell you you should have done the video a different way, or this video should be about this and not what you focused on. Because like I see a lot of costumers complain about this, and it's like, I always wonder what are those people thinking that leave those comments, because like it's not really that you didn't like the video either. It's just like you expected it to be a different video. I don't know, have you clicked on the wrong one and got confused? Like
the second official CosTube video that I made was a pair of plaid bicycle bloomers that went with my bicycle sweater. And the video is like 1 minute and 30 seconds long. It was like, I still didn't really know how to do this very well. But the entire video was about bloomers. And then there was like a little skit at the end where I'm riding around my neighborhood. Someone left a comment saying, would have been nice to see more of the bloomers. And I'm like, what are you talking about? The entire video was about that. So that's not necessarily a negative comment, but I was just like, what?
Yeah.
It was really, yeah, I left it up because I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm misinterpreting how they're trying to say, but I was like, the whole video is about the bloomers.
I mean, I have a video when I make like a pine needle basket, and somewhere, I think in the comments or somewhere in the video, I asked like, if is there a craft that you would like me to try out, and some like creepy man in the comments wrote, try cooking. to which like I guess that was a answer to the question I asked, and I guess cooking is a skill, but I'm like, when I saw it the first time, I was like, do they like realize how inappropriate
no, you.
this is? Like, also, do you not realize that I already know how to cook? I mean, like that was so out of the blue, but that was also by the guy that left a comment on every single one of my videos that existed at the time in a span of an hour. So for example, in one video, I made a yellow skirt, like 1950s skirt, and he left a comment saying, you would look great in like blue or green or something like this. And I was like, okay. Like, sure, I would do great in anything, but why are you saying that here?
Like, thanks, I already know.
Even on a different video, he just like left a timestamp on the very beginning of the video. Like, I used to like just put some aesthetic shots on the beginning of like introductions, and he basically like posted a timestamp and said, "What a beautiful view!" Like,
yikes!
Like, I think it's a 30 seconds in. Like, I get that you want to get my attention, but this is just like really stupid. I don't know. So yeah. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, I think we're almost ready to wrap up unless anyone has any more questions or comments.
I'll just make a quick comment. I've been like watching all of your guys' videos since before we ever actually had a conversation, which I just think it's really cool though, because it's like, oh my God, these guys are so cool. Look at the stuff that they're making. And then we, for the people who don't know, like we've been planning this panel for quite a while, and we had kind of like an initial, like, let's meet each other Zoom conversation. And that was so much fun because, I personally, like, I'm going to put myself out in person. So there's a ton of people on CosTube. There's a ton of people in the Discord server. And it's like getting to know people like outside of the videos that they make is challenging for me. So it was cool to kind of get to meet the people behind, all of these really awesome videos and like Instagram photos and everything. So I don't know, this was an awesome opportunity, and I'm glad that we got to organize something and maybe do something in the future. I don't know, but it was really cool. And every time I see a notification about like, oh, one of these guys posted a video, I'm like, watch. So I don't know. I just think it's kind of neat when you get to know people. Things take on a much greater significance. So that's why I'm really happy we got to do this, and it's a ton of fun. And it was great. And I got to dress up because no one's going anywhere because of the pandemic. So it's like, all right.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people in costume, so it's always nice to like get to meet someone personally, whether it's like through like voice chat, face cam, or just like texting. But I think it's always nice when you see someone post something or write something and you recognize the name. Mm-hmm. Because like, I guess we as like a community have like chats with each other. Like we have organized groups and stuff like this, which I don't think a lot of people are aware that exists. People like our viewers. So there are like probably more than 200 people in this like organized space. So obviously we don't know each other. So when you get to like form actual relationships with other people here, that's very, very nice. And I would love to like make more things with you guys, whether it would be like just hanging out, for example, on streams, I don't know, gaming, or making like some kind of collaborations when it comes to sewing or something like this. But yeah, I would love to do more with you guys.
Yeah. Related to what Holly said, if there's anyone watching this on the Twitch stream, or more likely on the CoSy premiere, there is a very small Discord server for young CosTubers. If you're watching this and you're like, I want to make YouTube videos, but I don't know anyone and the group is way too big, reach out to me on Instagram and I will send you the Discord join link. I'm at Gracie Sews, GRACIESEWS on Instagram. And if you want to join a Discord server of young people who make YouTube videos about costuming, reach out. Always be nice to get to know more people.
Shout out to
good idea.
Shout out to the people from the old costuming panel.
Oh yes.
We have kind of set up like there is a costuming while old panel, or I don't know if that's the official title, but that's the one that I saw. We have set our panels on the same day, so
yeah, shout out to them.
If someone is concerned, we know about this. They know about this. This is a joke. We are not fighting with each other. If someone wants to like pull the Gen Z or millennials versus boomers, then like, no, we are chill with each other.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
It's just a happy coincidence more than anything. We're like, whoa, we're gonna do a Young CosTubers, and then there's this other one. Where does that come from? Who did that?
Fight to the death.
Y'all, though,
Drama in costume. Oh god.
Oh my god. But like most of the people in this community are between the ages of like late 20s and early 40s, maybe, like the vast majority of people.
I would say even to 50s, to be honest.
And they're wonderful and I love them, but I'm glad that there are a few people who are a lot younger, just so that I'm not like the only one.
Yeah.
Also, if you're like concerned if a young person can be like, if we are, I guess, accepted into the group, there are a lot of people that basically adopt us on those groups.
Yeah,
like out of
there are costume moms on
this
groups,
group
definitely.
of 4, at 21, I'm the oldest. So that kind of just puts things into perspective.
I don't think we even said our ages, actually.
Irrelevant.
By the way, I'm of drinking age in Poland, if that's your concern.
Gracie and I can't drink yet.
Drinking is true. No.
Yeah, drinking age in Canada is 19 everywhere except for Quebec, where it's 18. So you can imagine all the first year university people in Quebec, and they're not from there. It's crazy.
I mean, I hear that people like on the border of like Quebec will come to Quebec just to drink. So
yeah, it's totally a thing. It's totally a thing. Also, I had a lot of American friends at university because the Vermont border is basically right. Vermont and Quebec they're connected by land. And that it was a bit of a culture shock. We're so similar as countries, but there's some subtle differences, and drinking age is definitely one of them. So, yeah, fun times. As someone who doesn't drink, it's very fun to observe. Let me tell you.
I love how it's like a young costumer panel, and on the end we just start to talk about drinking. Well,
we are CosTubers and we are young, so
relevant. YouTube is stressful. Understand us.
We should probably wrap this
trying
up
to be relatable.
Because I'm still on a hotspot.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you all for watching. If you have like survived this, I guess, half an hour, which to be honest, congratulations. There is a badge for this.
There is.
However, apparently there is. I have to make one, but there is a badge.
Nice.
So from what I understand at the moment, badges this year work as like there will be a link in the description to a forum you have to fill out the forum and then someone for CoStube in like, I think a span of about like 12 hours, because this is all made like manually, will, I guess, award you the badge. So if you want a badge, there should be a link in the description or in the comments. So yeah.
Awesome.
So thank you for coming, and we will wrap this up right now. Once again, I'm Julij from the channel Just Julij. Gracie is from Gracie Patten, obviously. Ora from Ora Lin, and Holly is from, so I don't switch it up, it's Holly by Golly or Golly by Holly.
It's by Golly, Miss Holly.
Okay, for example,
It's close.
I always switch it up because it's like,
I know.
it rhymes,
Yeah.
but like I always forget which way it rhymes.
I know. Well, there's also a song, Good Golly, Miss Molly. So, you know, it's.
Oh, that's
Yeah. We've got some options.
I wonder if you like show up under all of those like searches.
Hey, that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
It's like basically making up songs in the search bar. Okay, but let's wrap it up so we don't go for eternity.
Thanks everyone for watching. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a slice.
Did you say it's been a slice? Never heard that one before.
Use it now.
Canadian.
I don't know. Maybe.
Nice.
Maybe. I don't know. Go, it's been a
Okay,
slice.
bye everyone. Thank you so
Bye,
much for
bye.
watching.
Bye.